This is the Society of Illustrators program, and we have been very lucky to have it as a webinar, 2020 going more online. We have got an amazing sponsor this year for our art show, and they are a foundation. This is the Bruce J. Heim Foundation, and they are supporting our original art show this year and have given a generous gift. They have a belief that books play a vital role in the development of a child's imagination and dreams, and this greatly aids our educational programming for kindergarten through 12th grade and has allowed us to offer this workshop for free. So thank you, the Bruce J. Heim Foundation. And this is thrilling because we can have illustrators from far afield, and the Society does run these live in the museum when we are having programs live. The museum is open right now for ticketed exhibit viewing. So if you wanted to go see one of our shows, you can purchase a ticket if you're local. Otherwise, you can see the original art show virtually online. You just have to get an entry ticket to see it online. And our guest, our exciting guest this morning is Shawn Harris, who's got 2 books featured in our original art exhibit. And today he is going to be showing us a workshop talking about his latest book, A Polar Bear in the Snow, which is a collage. And it's just the most beautiful book. I can't think of a better way to show the environment of a polar bear than the way that Shawn has illustrated this book. It's absolutely spectacular. And I'm hoping you all have some papers, scissors, maybe a pen, pencil. If you have colored paper, you could do an animal in a different environment, like green or blue. You can think of an animal that might be camouflaged in that color paper. If you have white, that's great for the polar bears, the Arctic foxes, etc. So I'm now going to introduce to you Shawn Harris. Now, Shawn Harris lives in Northern California, and he is here behind the book. And he got into
Hi, Claire. Hi, everybody.
He got into illustration in 2000, actually. He's a singer-songwriter who's in bands to start with. That's another art form, isn't it? Music. Totally a musician for life, he plays in bands, but he also illustrates. And from designing record albums, which the covers that you see, and they're always very artfully done. Shawn got into illustration that way, but he has now received many accolades and Best Picture Book honors for his picture books. His first picture book was Her Right Foot. That was written by David Eggers. And now he's done many, many more books, and we're so lucky to have Shawn with us. So I'm hoping you're all excited to do some collage this morning and learn from Shawn how he did this amazing book. So, over.
Thank you for the intro.
Oh,
thank you.
Please do put some questions in the chat. I will look through your questions while Shawn is presenting his workshop, which, by the way, I'll let him just do the workshop so that you can enjoy it and work away, and then towards the end I'll answer, ask him some questions that you put in the chat box. Also, we would love to see your illustrations, so please do email them in. We'll have a note to where you can email those in, and we'll be posting them on our social media, so we want to share what wonderful artwork you do today. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Claire Pernice. Take care, and over to Shawn.
Over to me. Welcome, everybody. Everybody, come on into my studio. It's okay. It's okay. You don't need masks for this. This is okay. We're in my studio space. Can everybody fit? Okay. Okay, great. Let me just quickly show you. I know Claire told you some of the materials that we might need, but I'll just show you what I've got on my desk. I've got a pair of scissors. I have an ink pen. Doesn't matter what kind. It can be a fancy one or a cheap one, doesn't matter. I've got a pencil. I've just, something that'll make marks. It doesn't really matter what. And to start, I've got a piece of white paper here, and then I've got a couple pieces of colored paper. If you don't have colored paper at your house, that's totally fine. We're gonna mostly work with white paper, but the colored paper can make some fun additional art that we can do. I'm gonna flip my camera back around here. And I'm going to show you. This is my latest book. It is called A Polar Bear in the Snow. It was written by my oldest friend and racquetball enemy, Mac Barnett. Has anybody heard of Mac Barnett? Does anybody have any of Mac Barnett's books? Mac Barnett has written so many books, he does not even know how many books he's written. He thinks it's somewhere between 48 and 50. I think he's coming up on big 50 soon. Okay, all right, you know, we've got to get on with this, with our webinar. Wait, stop. Everyone, okay, calm down. I know, thank you. I do appreciate that. Thank you. So that was A Polar Bear in the Snow. This book was a little different than the other books that I have made so far, in that this book started with a drawing. It started with an idea for a drawing, actually. And Mac Barnett, like I told you, he's my oldest friend, and I was over at his house, and I was telling him about an exciting idea that I had. And I would like to show you some original art. I would like to show you that original exciting idea that I told Mac about. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to transfer my camera here. It will just come with me, and then you can see, this is when I work at my desk. This is what I see. Here we go. You are now, you know, for all sakes and purposes, you are now Shawn Harris, the illustrator of A Polar Bear in the Snow. This is what I see all day. So I had this idea for making a collage that had no lines and no contrast between the pieces of paper in the collage, except for the fact that light would make shadows that made lines at the edges of the paper. I wanted to do a monochromatic book, and I was thinking all white paper, and I asked Mac, I said, hey, if I wanted to do a book using only white paper and just a little bit of black ink, like, what would you make that book about? And, you know, how do I write a book, Mac? I haven't written a book yet at this point. And I said, what if it was like a polar bear in the snow? So that the stuff that the polar bear is made of is basically the same stuff that the Arctic habitat that the polar bear is in is made of, right? And I just light my drawings so that it makes lines. You can still see the polar bear, but I don't have to draw outlines of a polar bear or paint the polar bear. I'm just letting the light actually make my lines for me, and then I just get to make like two little dots to define the polar bear's face. Max said, "A polar bear in the snow. That's a pretty good idea for a title of a book." Like, okay, well, I've got my title. And then he said, okay, so I think what you do is you have him going somewhere, and that's the big mystery. And then he, you know, Mac kept on saying, and then, you know, you ask where is he going, and then say like, is he going to meet the seals? And then you say, no, he's not hungry. And I started laughing, and I was like, okay, that's really good. Mac, it kind of seems like you're halfway through writing this book already and describing this book for me. And Mac said, let me, do you want to write it? And he said, let me think about it. And he came back from, he went and said, I'm going to think about it. And then he took a shower, came back from the shower and said, I will write this book. And then that was the first book that we made together. And this was the first test image that I did. Now, you remember in the book here, the climax of the book, basically the color shifts, right? Everybody noticed that? When we got to the sea, all of a sudden there was all of this bright blue, right? All this really vibrant, bright blue. I knew that was going to be a really important part of the book, but I was confused how to do it when I started working on the book, because I was thinking, well, I thought I was going to make this whole book out of white paper, but you know, I need this blue. So what I did, I made a test image, and I was like, let me use some blue paper. So here was my test of the polar bear diving into the snow. You know, I thought, well, something's wrong here. This isn't quite how I envisioned this, the colored paper coming in, all of a sudden the polar bear is made of a different type of paper than I was making the polar bear out of for the rest of the book. And the background, I don't know, just didn't feel right to me. So I said, I got to figure out a way to still make this entire book out of just white paper, even when the book turns blue. So let me show you something. This is what I figured out. Here's my polar bear, right? Let's see if I can zoom on this a little bit here. Bear with me, get it? All right, closer. So you can see this polar bear right here, right? Now, look what happens. Let's say, okay, let me start this again. So I cut out the polar bear. I used the same type of paper that I was using for the polar bear, just white paper, but this isn't blue, right? I figured out if I use a thin paper to put this polar bear on, and this paper is called vellum. It's kind of like tracing paper. Maybe some of you have used tracing paper before. You see how the light, you can kind of see the light passing through the paper. And if I turn this collage gently over, you can see I put some more vellum on the back side of this paper. I collaged on the back side, which seems like why would you bother putting fish and motion lines and air bubbles on the back side of a paper? Well, I'll show you why. Because I wanted light to be able to pass through this drawing, this collage. I'm turning on my light table right now. When I do that, you can see all of the details that I put on the bottom side of the collage actually pass through the collage, and it looks like the polar bear is kind of glowing, right? So then I thought, well, now I'm just missing blue. So I thought about the way that lights change in stage productions, in like plays. If anybody's ever been in a school play, you know, they have colored lights that can make it look like the whole stage is underwater. And I thought, well, let me order some of those. So I got some of this colored light. So look what happens when I just put the colored film between my phone's camera and the image. It all turns blue, right? Well, that's pretty cool. But then I thought, well, I don't want the polar bear to be as blue as the background. So watch what happens when I slide this colored film underneath the polar bear, between the light table and my image. And there, that's what I ended up with. So I can get another light on the polar bear right here. Yeah, that's what I ended up with. So you see how we're getting some of the white light on the polar bear, but we're getting all this blue passing through, and then the blue is kind of glowing through right here. I got really excited by that. And that's what I ended up shooting for the book. Now let me show you another piece. I'm gonna turn off my light table here because I think the reveal is kind of the funnest part. Let's see. Sorry. Okay. That should turn off in a second here. Let's look at this next image. All right. Let's look at this one. So again, I did this on vellum. On the back of the collage, you can see there's a mirror image of the polar bear. I cut it out at the same time as I cut out this polar bear. So they are mirror images of each other, and I put that on the back of my piece. It's a little hard to see when you view it like this, especially if there's not blue under it. See, the polar bear's reflection almost completely disappears. I'm gonna slide that blue under, and then let's do the reveal. You ready? Everybody count to 3. 1, 2, 3. The polar bear's reflection appears in the blue water. All right, let's do one more. Here we go. Last one. A lot of people ask me about this one. So this one has a little twist on that same idea. So you can see here, you might be able to tell we're looking at the underwater scene. This is actually a wordless spread in the book, which means that I wanted you to really pause and feel like you're underwater and join this scene. Really feel like you're in there amongst the fishes and crabs and watching this polar bear surface, right? Okay, but of course, you know what's going to happen. I've glued some things on the bottom of this one. However, I want to show you first what I did to my film on this one. I actually cut my lighting gel so that some white light would pass through because I wanted it to look like the sun was filtering through the water, right? So I'm going to slide this film underneath the vellum. And also, I don't know if anybody has been surprised by the size of these illustrations, but they're actually much smaller than even I remember them being. The reason for that is you can see I have all this cool texture on my paper here, right? Look at all this cool texture that I used from this watercolor paper that I used. Well, I really wanted that to be pronounced in the book. You can see on that cover, you can really see the watercolor paper on that polar bear. And I found that the bigger I worked, the smaller that texture looked when I took the photos. So I worked small, and the finished book actually ended up being, I think it was 50% bigger. It was like 150% of what my actual originals were, which means that those the detail in the paper actually ended up getting more pronounced than in my originals, which I thought was a really cool look. Whoa! I didn't even get to count off. We didn't even get to count off. Look at that. The polar bear emerges, and as I recall, I think I might have pulled a little bit of the page up when I took the photograph for the book. There's a little bit of a blur there. See how cool that looks when I kind of settle the page down. It's really like you're underwater, right? Anyway, I had a lot of fun playing with light in making this book. Like I said, basically light did most of the illustration for me, did most of the coloring of this book. Almost everything in this book was illustrated really not by me. I just cut out some shapes, but by light. Look at that shadow right there under the man's leg. That's all light. And above my desk, I had a couple lights that I would set up looking down, and I could adjust them until the lines looked like they would if I had painted them. And so that's how I made the book. That's how I made the colors in the book. I'm gonna flip this around really quick, even though I think I'm gonna flip it right back because it is almost time. Oh yes, Claire.
I was just saying it's amazing. Everyone, isn't it fascinating to see behind the scenes? I mean, that is so original, and it couldn't be a better way to display the world. Fantastic. Thank you for showing us all that. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so fun to have the opportunity to share the process because obviously I don't want you to know any of the process when you're reading the book. I just want you to see the art and feel like you're there in the Arctic, under the Arctic Sea, you know? I don't want you to figure out how I did it in the book, but I love being able to tell you how I did it. And as you can see, it's a different way of illustrating using collage and using light to make the collage stand out in a different way than it does. Like basically any light source that these images from the book are shown in, it looks different. You know, this looks much different than in the book. And when I put it on my light table, you saw the difference. Look when I tilt it towards the window. The polar bear sort of emerges there, disappears and emerges. That's one of the really cool things about collage that I really love is how it's affected by light, and seeing original collage work is always really fun. I think that brings us to drawing time because Another thing I love about collages is that most people at home have all the tools you need to make a collage. So it's drawing time. Is everybody ready to do some collage work with me?
Yes.
Anybody familiar with, are there any club heads out there? Any Max Book Club show members? Drawing time might make you familiar with this song. 1, 2, 3, it's drawing time with the racquetball king of the Oakland YMCA. It's drawing time with the racquetball king, Shawn Harris. That's me. Okay.
Yes, we have some club heads with us.
Club heads. How is everyone doing? Is there anybody joining us from outside of the continental United States? We have club heads all around the world on all 7 continents.
Fantastic. Yes, do put in the chat if you're from somewhere further afield than the USA. Love to hear where you're from.
Yes.
Alberta, Canada. We have Tasha and we have Lizanne from Canada. Hi.
All right.
Wonderful.
Hello, international club heads. Thank you, everybody on the West Coast that's here. If anybody from the West Coast woke up early with me, good morning, and thank you for waking up early. Okay, it's drawing time. I'm setting up my drawing camera again. I'm gonna move my light table because we actually don't need that. I didn't say that we required a light table today. So let's move that. And yeah, now we've just got my desk. Here's my tools. Let's do some drawing. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a piece of white paper, and I would love to show you maybe my favorite polar bear pose from the book and how I like to cut out that polar bear's shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to fold it in half. You know what? I kind of want that. Where's my music? Let's get that music going. Let's get our chill music, a little chill wave going on here. All right, I'm going to fold my piece of paper in half. Give it a little crease there. And I'm going to take my scissors. And right here in the bottom of the page, I am going to cut a triangle. And along the same line of this side of the triangle, I'm going to cut a shape up just about to the tip of that triangle, and I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to turn my page, and I'm going to come in here and cut all the way to the tip of that shape.
We have a question, Shawn. Should everybody be doing this along with you?
Yeah, would you like to do this along with me? Everyone do this along with me. Do you need me to pause?
Perhaps just for a moment while people catch.
Yeah, for anybody that wants to catch up, let's do this all together. Thank you for making that clear. Let's do this together. So what I did for anybody catching up, I folded a piece of paper in half, creased it, cut a triangle out of the bottom. What we're making right here, it's almost like we're making a snowflake, right? Everybody has done that thing where you fold up a piece of paper and do the snowflake thing. But today we're not making a snowflake. I'm showing you how I make a polar bear walking. So everyone's caught up. We got a triangle cut out of the bottom right there. And then I cut along that side of the triangle right there up to about the tip of that triangle. And then I stopped cutting. And then I came in this side and finished cutting out that shape. Boom. Okay. I'm going to continue. Then right about here, not all the way at the edge, but somewhere right about here, I'm going to cut inwards and kind of make, let's see if you can just kind of follow my shape here, because it's not kind of the shape with no name a little bit, but I'm going to come up and get to about there. And then I'm going to make bit of a bump, a little bit of a nodule, a little wart on top of this shape here. Okay, see what I'm doing there? I'm keeping my descriptions abstract because I like to be surprised when we unfold this. Then we're going to continue from the other side of that nodule and make a little bit of a hump right there, and then we're going to cut straight across and cut our shape out. We're going to end up with something that looks like that. Then we're going to unfold it. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's fold it. Let's fold it one more time. I always forget this little piece until I unfold it. Right here on this side, we're going to cut the smallest little triangle out. Just the smallest little triangle. Just like that. That's actually going to be the space between our polar bear's middle two legs here. And you might say, well, illustrator Shawn Harris, are you so good at your job? Your polar bear seems to have two heads. So I don't recommend getting anywhere near a polar bear in real life. Do anything like this with scissors. Don't do this. Don't even think about it when you're doing it. But you're just going to trim off one side there. And we are left with the shape of a polar bear walking. Now, what I like to do is take a little piece of that scrap paper that we had and put it behind the polar bear's head. And I'll show you why. Because we're going to make a little bit of a mess here. I'm going to add a nose to this polar bear. And I'm just going to see it. I'm just kind of making a shape over the whole edge there. So I don't have to really aim at the polar bear's nose, but see what happens. We ended up with a pretty nice nose. And then I'm going to give this polar bear an eye. It's just going to be a dot. That's it. Now, since this shape is a three-dimensional shape, I oftentimes like to keep my options open. I'm not sure what the final image is going to be. I don't know if I want my polar bear walking that way or that way. So I'll tell you what we can do. Keep our options open. Just flip this polar bear around to the side that we didn't draw on and do the same thing again. And if we didn't like the first face we gave the polar bear, well, this will make our decision for us. I'm going to do the same thing. Bit of a nose there, bit of an eye, and move that. We can discard this scratch paper right there, and look at that. We've got a polar bear in the snow. Well, no, sorry. We've got a polar bear on a desk. That's not exactly the final image I was imagining. So I'm going to grab another piece of paper here and slide it under the polar bear. And look at that. If we play with the bend here a little bit, we can even use the light to illuminate the polar bear. Feel free to kind of give the polar bear's head a little bit of a bend so that we can see where the lines stand out. I'll show you one more trick that I like to do when I'm making three-dimensional art, when I'm making collages. I like to bring this polar bear out in front of the background to make the lines and the shadows even more pronounced. And I'm going to show you a trick how I do that. So let's take this paper that we cut the polar bear out of, our scratch paper here, and I'm just going to cut a strip. Doesn't really matter how long. I'm going to cut it about, I'll show you how big it is in comparison to the polar bear. About that big. And what I'm going to do is I want the polar bear to be about maybe a half an inch off of my page, maybe, something like that. I'm going to have the polar bear be that far off my page. That's how far I want him to sit above my page, right? So I'm going to fold this page over like this. This strip over like this. And then I'm going to continue folding where that end meets. I'm going to fold again. So we folded once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, At the end of the fourth time, I'm going to cut off the rest. I end up with this little booklet right here, right? I'm gonna unfold this booklet, and you can see that this booklet, since we folded it 4 times, is folded into 5 squares. Now what we can do is roll those back up, but keep them in the shape of a square. And then I know I didn't tell you about, I just decided I was going to show you this here. So if anybody has tape or glue or something like that, it's not totally necessary, but if you want to make your work a little more permanent, you can use something like tape or glue. Make that square a sturdy square there. By just putting a little tape there. It doesn't have to be pretty. We're not really going to see this. And then what I can do is use that as a pedestal to put the polar bear, to lean the polar bear on, or to glue or tape the polar bear on. I've just got this one right here, but you can see, look at that. Look at how much the polar bear stands out from the background without any lines except for these 2 little dots that we drew in ink. Look how pronounced that is. Look at that polar bear walking through the snow. I'm really excited. See how exciting that is? Is everybody doing this at home? It's so exciting to see the light make your image. It's so cool. I want to take a photo of that. You know, if you have a phone or anything with a camera on it, or a camera, I guess. What I did to turn a collage like this into the book is get the right light that I liked, turn it that way. See how it changes when I turn it? Oh, look at that. We've got the shadow behind the polar bear there. Well, I would find my favorite light. I think my favorite one was that original one. And then I put my camera right there and I take a photograph of it. And that's what I send into my publisher. That is the finished art right there. If you want to create more of these, as you can see, I've kind of got my polar bear leaning. I'm really happy with that. But if I wanted to bring the polar bear's feet off of the page, I could make more little squares like that, put them underneath the legs, put them underneath the head. I can make smaller little blocks to fit different shapes so that you can't see it from out front of the image. But that's how I get all that depth between my pages. And there we go. We've got a polar bear camouflaged in his habitat. Is everybody following that at home? Is everybody getting your polar bear? Now, look, I've got another challenge for you. We've got this white habitat right here, right? I have envisioned this as the Arctic. We were in an Arctic mood because we just read A Polar Bear in the Snow. But what other habitat could this be? Well, yeah. Did someone say Antarctica? Of course, yeah. I know. It's the other side of the world from the Arctic, sure. But maybe you could make a Weddell seal. Antarctica. Maybe you could do if you went back to the Arctic, you could do Arctic foxes. Anybody see the foxes hiding in the cave in my book? I mean, they weren't really hiding. I'm sure everybody saw them, but we've got the seals, we've got the foxes. Look at that. Okay. The last and then if anybody at home has colored paper, here's where the world really ripped wide open. What could this habitat be? I've got some blue paper right here. We could do maybe a shark in the Pacific. What could this be? We could do a finch in the sun.
Oh, finch. Oh, yes.
What about this? Well, why don't I just make something? With this one? Maybe I can take some of your questions right now as you're working right now. Maybe I can take some questions and I can do one more camouflage collage. I'm going to make something camouflage in this setting right here. while I take your questions. Does that sound like a good idea, Claire?
Yes, fantastic. Yeah, we've had a few
Okay.
questions coming in. Um, so I would like to firstly say this is so amazing, isn't it, everybody? I hope you are taking pictures because we would love to see what you're creating.
I would love to see what everybody makes. Yeah.
Um, so everyone's excited to see you, Shawn. We've got lots of comments saying that and how awesome this is. One fun question that you might find interesting is, what's Mac really like?
What is Mac really like? Well, if you watch Mac's book club show,
Oh, there
I
you
think you have a pretty good sense of what Mac is really like. I remember a question coming into the book club show. A kid asked Mac, why do you always look concerned? Well, Mac, that's just kind of the look on Mac's face all the time. But I wouldn't say that Mac isn't necessarily a concerned guy, but anything that me and Mac, he's my oldest friend. He's my best friend in the world. We argue a lot. But we like to argue a lot. And
Yeah.
I think that the part of that look on Mac's face, that concern, I think, is Mac being concerned that he needs to think about uh, everything that crosses his path. He likes to analyze and think about,
Isn't that
and I think that's why he's such a good author. Yeah,
yes? Writers are definitely thinking about how to communicate things, right? With
yeah,
words.
yes, exactly.
Doing this with pictures. And now we have some really fun questions about your illustrations. So, what are your favorite things to illustrate, Tasha?
What are my favorite things to illustrate? I really like illustrating. I like illustrating characters. I like I like things with faces. um, yeah, I like to bring. As you might have noticed with the polar bear in the snow, I was really interested in the Arctic setting um, because I could capture the character of it
Mm-hmm.
so simply and use the light to make you feel like you were there. I'm not one of these illustrators that is. I like to practice going out and illustrating landscapes and stuff, but really, at the end of every landscape that I do, I have to put something with a face in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that really does bring a story to an environment. So, if you've got characters, you want to think about where they might be living, where the story is taking place, and
Hmm.
those characters, that's where you can bring in humor, expressions, and so that yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I think a lot of picture book illustrators do love to create characters. You're not alone with that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's spectacular. So here's another question from Tasha. What are the hardest things for you to illustrate? Would that be
The
land?
hardest thing? Well, yeah, I think, yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, there's a reason why I didn't make a brown bear in the forest. I made the polar bear in the snow. Yeah, because I think that I did that minimal landscape really nicely. Yeah, I guess. Well, actually, I have another book in the Society of Illustrators show this year that's called Everyone's Awake, and it's actually in many ways it's the opposite of a polar bear in the snow. In fact, like if you didn't look at the placard next to the art, you probably wouldn't know that the same artist did that book. um, I did that book with layers of ink instead of using collage, so it's not a collage book, and it's a very maximal book. It's very busy, about as much going on as I will probably ever draw. I had so much fun doing that book, but yeah, I'm not like a Graham Base or like a Where's Waldo type illustrator. I like things to be a little more. Uh, I like focus on one or two or maybe three focal points. Do you guys know what a focal point is? Right now, I'm showing you this image right here, right? You might not know what it is yet, but it's going to be something hiding in this green habitat, right? Well, this is a singular focal point, especially if I move this square in the background. You've got one focal point right here. I actually love illustrations with one focal point. Now, if I end up drawing, maybe an eye on this character and maybe some detail back here, then we'll start to spread out the focal point. And then if I bring this square, if I arrange things like that, then all of a sudden we've got two. See how that kind of balances differently? We got two focal points. If I put this in here, we've got three.
Yeah.
If you look at a Where's Waldo, you've got, hundreds of potential focal points, and it gets really complex and my brain starts to scramble. So yeah, I tend to keep it simple.
Yeah, and simple can be really effective. So that's
Yes.
really great. Young
I mean, busy can be really effective too. I don't want to pass a judgment on that. I love Graham Bass's work. I love really complicated stuff. It's not what I'm the best at.
Often people look at more complex illustration and think, oh, that's very difficult to do. So we admire it for that. But when that's a more simple approach, it just feels like, oh, that's really fun. Like it looks like you're having fun doing it, and we want to do it. So we're very
good
doing this along with you. We have a few more questions.
Please.
So what
I need a few more minutes on my collage, so a few more questions is good.
Very exciting. Can you all guess what Matt's doing here? Yeah, it's going to be a big reveal in a moment. So next question, actually, another question from Melanie is, what is your favorite spread in the book, in the polar bear?
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, my favorite spread is probably actually a single page one. And when I entered or when I sent the Society of Illustrators my favorite piece from the book, I thought it was going to be, I was choosing between this spread and this spread. This is kind of the most maximal that this book gets. Pretty exciting one. But I've got to say that my favorite, I think, is this one. Like I said, I really like character stuff, and of course, this polar bear's character is all over the book. Even that, but something about, I think I really captured the polar bear's spirit in this one. Yes.
Yes, and look at all the different perspectives that Shawn incorporated into his pages. You see the camera angle that's pulled out. It's actually quite cinematic the way you've created this book, particularly as you are.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm not going to answer this question. We have a question, very good question. I'm just scrolling down to see who was that who asked that. I jot down what the question was. I'll find out who asked this question. But it's a good question. So how do you put the cutouts into the book? So
can you ask it again?
Yes. How do you put the cutouts into the book?
Yes, exactly. So what I do is I will arrange my cutout like this, right? And then I will. Yes, great question. Yeah, I know, because it almost looks like the book almost looks like a pop-up book, but it's not a pop-up book. But you can see all those layers of paper. Yes, exactly. So what I do is right about where you are, I have a camera, and I take a photograph when I like the way that the shadows are sitting on my image there, maybe like that on this one, and I take a photograph of my artwork, and that photograph actually ends up being the finished piece. That's what I send to my publisher. That's what they print in the book, is actually a photograph. So you wouldn't think it, but this whole book, it's actually a book of photographs. I know it looks like a book of art and collages, but technically it's a book of photographs of art. Crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So actually, kind of like jumping off that question, we had another question. I believe that was from Melanie as well. Which was the most challenging spread in the book for you? Was it that other favorite one?
The most challenging one, honestly, is the simplest page in the book. I will show you. I did so many versions of the polar bear's face
Uh,
until I found exactly the right one. Actually, I would love to show you. Can I show you a couple of the outtakes? I think I think that I did. You know, I didn't count them, but I probably did somewhere between 30 and 50 of these polar bear faces. I think
uh,
that might have been the final one that I liked, but here's another one. It looks almost just like that, but
subtly
well,
subtle, right?
not quite. Look at all the different character that happens between these. I was
Yes.
just really looking for that perfect polar bear. Oh, look at that one. He's got kind of bleary eyes because I was thinking, oh, he just woke up. He looks a little sleepy, but that ended up looking a little scary too, right? Oh, here I was experimenting with defining the snout in a different way that I
Yeah.
ended up going against. There's another one that looks close to the final one. Here's another one with the kind of bleary morning booger eyes.
You've got a whole set of cards there. It's like
I know, so many. I did so many of these. He looks a bit. He looks like he's been up for a few days.
see, it's
Yeah.
important when you're doing a book to really get that personality coming through. So that's why Shawn has taken the time to really figure out what little expression he wants.
Uh huh.
Mhm.
Especially when you're working simply. You can see sometimes the finished drawing that ends up in the book is actually done. There's the final snout that I did.
Like,
Yeah.
straight into
That sometimes the piece that you're seeing in the book, yeah, maybe it's so simple that it only took 3 or 4 minutes to do a simple final like that, but you know, you might have to do 100 different versions of it until you find just the right one, and you know when it's the right one because you love it. You know, I read uh, the illustrator Steig.
yes,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I read that he would do. You know, his style is pretty loose, and it looks like he works pretty fast. But he would do 5 different versions of every piece in the book, and then he would pin them all to the wall and pick out that one, that one, that one. Those are going to be the pages. So he would do the book 5 times basically,
Yes,
and pick the most immediate ones. So every artist has a different way of
working out.
of working that all out. Yeah.
Mhm.
And of course, if you're doing like a Graham Baker or Where's Waldo, you can't do 5 illustrations of every like intricate page of the book. You know, that would just take years.
Well, what we
So
now, obviously, this technology has advanced so that we can actually maybe some artists do use the computer to sort of
this is true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like to work by hand.
Mhm.
A lot of
Yeah.
really do like art materials too, but working on the computer is another way to create. And we see a lot of very accomplished, fascinating digital art as well.
Yeah.
So everyone, I think you can now see, but way before this little face came onto Shawn's character, a couple of people guessing. Sarah guessed it was an alligator, so did Toma, and
All right.
I think we can see the big reveal, right? That's definitely it's an alligator.
Yeah. Let's and then so the last step will be we get to put this alligator into the alligator's habitat. Let's see if we can see this alligator camouflaged in a swamp.
Oh
Look at
yeah,
that. That might be all you wouldn't want to miss that. You wouldn't want to step on him.
no,
Look at what I'm going to take one of these little squares that I made. I'm going to put it underneath the alligator. Oh yeah, look at that. Now all of a sudden we get that shadow bringing the alligator out of the swamp just a little bit. I'm excited. That's how exciting is that? I want to take a picture of that one too.
It's definitely come to life. Oh, that's so.
Yeah.
So I hope you were all trying different paper colors if you have some. If you don't, you could always paint a piece of white paper, or use
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
or
Yes. There are some great collage artists that paint their paper. Christian Robinson is a inspiration on my work. He likes to paint his paper before he cuts it out a lot of times. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. Another question, a musical question. When did you start playing guitar? This is from JJ Kim in Seattle, West Coast.
The first instrument that I learned that I liked playing music on was the flute. I started playing the flute in second grade,
Mm.
but I wanted to write songs and I wanted to write songs with lyrics. And the flute
Mm.
is
Right.
a really actually bad instrument to play if you want to sing along with playing an instrument. So I had to rethink things. I rethought things. And when I was in sixth grade, I switched from the flute in school band to just playing the guitar in my bedroom. And I've played since sixth grade.
Okay. I've got some fun questions here. I think some people know you. So, how long have you also been playing racquetball, and how did you get so good? From Max in New York.
Oh, thanks for asking about racquetball, Max. Yeah, you might have heard in my theme song there was drawing time with the racquetball king. I am the racquetball king of the Oakland YMCA.
Oh,
Before shelter in place, me and Mac would play racquetball every week. We played once a week, and the winner got free lunch bought for him by the loser. And the very last time that we played racquetball before COVID and shelter in place, I beat Mac, which made me the racquetball king of the Oakland YMCA for an unprecedented, what is it, like 9 months or something like that? 10 months? What are we going on here? This is the longest either of us has ever held the title. And I got so good just by playing Mac. Mac is good at racquetball. But I beat him in the most decisive victory of 2020. Certainly.
wow. You are an all-rounder, athletic, musical, and an illustrator, and a good
Thank
presenter.
you.
May I add, good presenter. Aren't we having fun, everybody? So here's a question from Eleanor. She's 7. What is your favorite color?
Ooh, Eleanor, I think my favorite color. Well, it depends. Are you asking what's my favorite color to wear or my favorite color to draw with?
That's a good.
I'll just answer both. My favorite color to wear is pink right now. I like pink and brown. Pink and brown together is my favorite combo. I also like pink and green. Pink and green is a good combination. I kind of like combinations. My favorite combination to draw with, um, let's go pink and green. Pink and green is a good combo. Yep.
Did you make that mug? Sarah's asking. Oh, Madeline is asking.
Made this mug. His name was John, and he had a son named John.
Uh-huh.
So he wrote Big John
Big
on
job.
this mug. My name is not John, but John was my grandpa, so I drink from this mug.
Oh, that's a great mug. Very, yeah. You can see that that's handmade. So everybody, if you're working on your collages, just keep going and create. We're going to keep going with some collages for some more time. And whilst
Yeah, I know. I know. We there's barely enough time to kind of show you how I work right here, but my hope is that I've given you some ideas to
oh,
spend the next hour or day or week or month or lifetime
yes.
working in collage.
Here's a question from Cameron, who's 7. Do you put collage in your cartoons too?
Yes. Anybody that watches Mac's book club show might be familiar with the first cat in space. The first cat in space ate pizza. Here's my poster that sits over my desk.
Yes.
And in fact, here are some of the characters
That
cut
is.
out right here, all ready to be collaged. I actually figured out that, oh, well, if I'm working in cut paper, it's pretty easy to take this character, and if I don't glue it to my page, then I can do some stop motion animation. Does anybody know what stop motion animation is? It's when you take a series of pictures, like a picture right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when you string those 6 pictures together in a video, you see the crocodile go across the page and without anybody's hand touching them. I figured out I could do animation with my cut paper. The First Cat in Space Ate Pizza is an animated show with 12 episodes that is it's on you can find it on YouTube. Search The First Cat in Space Ate Pizza. You can find it on me and Mac's Instagrams. And it's an animated show entirely made with collage.
It's fantastic, yes. And also we're going to list Shawn's website. He'll be featured on the Society of Illustrators SI Kids pages. He'll have this video, by the way, will be edited and put up there, so you can see, you can go back to it and see how the collages were created and be inspired again to do it another time. So we will be featuring him ongoing after this. You know, this is the first presentation. You all have a preview to it all. And again, thank you to the Bruce J. Hine Foundation for making this a free webinar for everybody. How fantastic is this? Oh, there we go. On that, we have a link that's just come up for you to make note of. Oh, so when did you start the First Cat in Space, asks Eleanor.
When did we start the First Cat in Space? We started the First Cat in Space when we stopped playing racquetball. Me and Mac missed hanging out together, and we decided, hey, let's make something with using Zoom. Let's figure out how to use Zoom to make a cartoon show. He was doing Mac's book club show, and we thought, hey, every Saturday it'd be cool if we had Saturday cartoons on the book club show, and we figured out how to do that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody check that out. It's really good. And also here we have another question. Where did that go? I'm sort of scrolling.
Well, it's okay, Claire. While you're finding that question, I have one cool thing. This method was actually invented by a book club show member. Do you remember when we made this polar bear, the first thing that we cut out together? You know how we had that extra head over here that we didn't end up needing when we did the snowflake cutout? Well, a book club member devised this really cool idea of putting another face on that extra polar bear head, taking a little piece of tape, taping it, making a 2-headed polar bear. If you make another one of those, you can make a 3-headed polar bear. Some of you might think, oh, that reminds me of the 3-headed rat king from The First Cat in Space. Yes, indeed. You can make a 3-headed polar bear king.
Yeah, that's right. You can make your own fantasy characters.
That's right. You're not limited to the natural world. Yes.
Animal mashups are fun as well. So here's more of a personal question. Are you going to be visiting Kalamazoo after COVID? Mabel would like to know.
Hi, Mabel. I can't wait to get out and do book tours again after COVID. Me and Mac have excitedly talked about doing a Mac's book club show tour with live cartoons in front of live audiences at some point. So yeah, we all can't wait to get out and visit each other, and I can't wait to visit you guys sometime in the future. And until then, I'm so glad that you all joined me here today. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Lizanne says that her kid says that Mac illustrates his thoughts with his face expressions. There we go. That was back to when you were describing Mac when he's on his show. So I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind, just if we've got a little bit more time, to do one more camouflage with the blue paper. So let's
do it. Let's do it.
Do your collages. So one more for the blue paper.
That sounds really fun. What does everybody see in this blue paper?
Anyone
maybe I can get a challenge.
Yeah, somebody challenge Shawn to what could be camouflaged in the blue paper.
Okay, first one. We're gonna do the first one.
Okay. Oh, a shark. Oh, a
shark. What do we got?
From Sarah.
A Weddell seal? Was that it?
Yeah, Weddell seal is the first one, and then a shark was the second one.
All right, I said we'd do the first one, so let's do a Weddell seal, everybody. All right, let's see. I'm going to use the same piece of paper. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself a little space for the animal shape. This is going to be our habitat right here. That's going to be our underwater scene. And then let's see, a Weddell seal. I drew seals from the Arctic. I know the Weddell seals only live in Antarctica. So what I'm going to do real quick is just pull up a picture of a Weddell seal. Let's see. I don't want to just, how do you spell Weddell? Weddell. Yeah. All right. Weddell seal. All right. I see some images of a Weddell seal on my computer screen. You're going to have to trust me there. Okay. References can be good, especially if you're trying to do specifically a Weddell seal versus any old seal. Would hate to do any old seal for you guys when you requested a very specific seal. Does anybody know the sound of a Weddell seal?
I don't.
Are you making that at home? I can hear some people. I can hear the energy of people making the Weddell seal sound at home.
You can hear the one.
The Weddell seal sounds, Claire, a Weddell seal sounds kind of like the party horn.
Oh. Oh, live Weddell seal sounds coming from Shawn.
Yeah, it's a really
makes it come to
exciting
life.
sound. Yes. All right. Let's see.
Well, I'm now looking at questions that we have more than another.
Oh, good.
So I'm going to go through other questions here. So,
good.
Kirsten, have you ever followed a polar bear? Oh, it's actually a question from Calvin, who's 5 in Minneapolis.
Hi, Calvin.
Have you ever followed a polar
Calvin,
bear?
I have seen a polar bear in real life, but I saw the polar bear at a marine park in Tacoma, Washington. I saw a polar bear in real life, and that was one of the things that I did to get when me and Mac had the idea for this book. I thought, well, I wonder if I could go see a real polar bear, and I got to see the polar bear swimming and catching fish, and part of that was actually really helpful in figuring out how to make the polar bear playing. I didn't know, how vicious is this thing gonna look? They're huge animals, but they look so majestic under the water.
Oh yeah.
So I really wanted it to be, they're like ballerinas. They're like these lumbering things on the ground, and they get in the water and they turn into these dancers. Yeah.
Oh yes, and then you do capture that really well. I was just admiring that in some of the pages in the book, particularly there's a double-page spread where we see the polar bear swimming. It's really fabulous. It says he wants to play. So if you look at the page, maybe I could bring that up quickly if I just put my screen on. I don't know if I'm going to be shown or not because I'm not pinned, but let's see.
You know what, Claire, I've got the book right here, so I could just bring that one up.
Let me bring that up.
All right,
yeah,
here we
it's
go.
an example of what we're talking about.
There we go. He wants to play, yep. So my motion line doing all of the illustrations of the polar bear playing was trying to give you that sense of grace and motion of a polar bear underwater.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, so here we go. I've got my Weddell seal. My Weddell seal, I gave the Weddell seal a bit of a look of concern in what do you call it? In honor of Mac Barnett.
Telling his thoughts by expression.
Indeed. Let me see if I can get this to lean just right. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. We have a Weddell seal lounging on the seabed.
Oh, that's so good. Love that. So actually, I'm going to go through some questions. Calvin, who was 5 in Minneapolis, was asking, do you take all the photos yourself at home on your own? I think you do, right?
I do. Yes, actually, Calvin, when I made this book, um, I I had a setup. I was in a different studio that I'm in right now. I had a setup that was I had a ladder above my desk. And so you can imagine my desk is right here, and then the ladder went up over my desk, and I had a camera permanently attached to the bottom of the ladder facing down at my desk. And then I had a button on my desk. Anytime I wanted to take a photo, without even looking up or touching the camera, I could click the button and it would take a photo of my desk and of what I was working on. So I also have a lot of different of, I would move the polar bear a little this way and take a photo, and then I'd be like, well, what if I want the polar bear facing that way? And I would take a photo that way, and without even using glue, I would be able to move my scenes around and choose my favorite one later.
That's really cool. So that answers that question very well. And actually, it was a very good question because you know what?
Great question.
Participants, that means that if you can, do your own collages and do the shadows, as Shawn has been showing everybody, you could take those
Mhm.
and experiment with it yourself, which is so great. It's not like he had to have a whole crew of people come in and lots of different equipment. Really, you can experiment with this yourself, which is so fun. And it's so great that Shawn's telling
Mhm.
behind the scenes of how he did his book. You can create your own short stories. So thank you so much for sharing your secrets, says Sally. Yeah, we're so thrilled to have these secrets revealed. And ask also, what was the name of the blue film?
Oh, the name of the blue film, I call them lighting gels. I think that's what they're
Uh,
called, lighting gels. Yeah. I bought them in a pack of I think it was like eight colors from the rainbow, and it had two. It was just on Amazon. I bought a cheap one.
there you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Supplies available also. Um, yeah, Amazon is a good source for supplies whilst you're sort of sequestered in your homes more than going out and shopping. So, there's a
we don't
question.
we don't they don't need our help promoting.
Other
I
sources,
just I just realized that.
yeah, you can.
Go to your
Yes,
local
yeah.
lighting gel store.
Or your
Local
local
lighting gel store. Yes.
store might have it. Yeah, art supply stores too have a lot of different.
Yeah. Check there first, actually, if you would. Thank you.
As we do with indie bookstores. So please, if you want to buy books, particularly if you want to go out and buy this wonderful book, which I love my copy of Polar Bear in the Snow, just support your local bookstores too. That's an
Yeah,
important.
a big shout out. We had so many book club members get
Hmm.
the book, buy the book from local booksellers, and we had these patches available from Copperfields in California. If you bought the book from them, Blue Willow Bookshop had some signed copies. So we really appreciate you supporting independent bookstores if you
Okay, cool.
can. Yeah.
I'm going to put the camera on so I can um, sort of talk to everybody a little bit more about. I've got some more questions that I will now just continue with. And then I will tell you a little bit about the original art show, which some people have asked about that. So I want to just um, give you a bit more information about that as well. Shawn, if you want to be doing something busy with your hands, you can do something on that yellow paper now, right, everybody?
Let's do a yellow collage.
Let's
Let
do
me let me camouflage something in yellow here while we talk. I love that.
it. We love to see you at work, and it's such a surprise to see what you might create next. So
Oh, good.
everyone can guess what Shawn might be doing in this yellow piece of paper.
Bring the yellow.
Here's a cute question. Um, Mila, who's 4, says she has long hair and uses hair ties. Do you use
Yes,
hair ties too? Yes.
I
There we
do
go.
use hair ties. I primarily use hair ties when I go surfing to keep my
Yeah. So
to keep my wet hair out of my face.
yeah, and you wouldn't be able to wear a hat surfing. So that's another way to keep your hair out of your face is wearing a hat.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Any other fashion tips? I like fashion. I like fashion tips too.
we've got a good question here. What is the polar bear's name? Did you have a secret name for the polar bear?
you know, you might have noticed, and when the book starts, the polar bear seems like the type of character that might have a name, but
Mhm.
when we get to the point, we think, oh, he's gonna go visit the seals. Oh, what will he say to the seals? Are they friends? And then the text says, no, he's not hungry. We go, oh yeah, I forgot. This is a bear. We were really close to the bear. We could see the bear's face. I forgot that it's a bear in the natural world. And then when we get to is he going to meet a man? We're like, oh, cool. What will he say to the man? And then the bear roars, and we see the text say no, and the man runs off. That reminds me. Well, I don't know if in polar bear language the bear has a name, but it's whatever the bear's name is. We humans will never know it.
Right. But
and I think,
yeah,
yeah, in the book, yeah, this bear's life, this bear's world, this bear's identity is actually, it's so interesting to us, but we can kind of only see it sort of from afar. And that's why it's so cool to get to hang out with this bear for a while, because otherwise, it's an animal that many of us actually will never get to see. But that's also why we're so fascinated with this animal too, I think.
Which brings me to, that is the reason books are so important in our world. And we as illustrators love books with pictures, because that's sort of like something that adds another dimension to the book. Obviously, when you read books, a lot of the story is left up to your imagination. But with picture books, we get an illustrator's viewpoint, which really brings us close to the characters by looking at how the illustrator has interpreted that character. And that's what's so enjoyable about this book, because we really do feel close to this bear as we're watching him doing all his antics. Antics in the Arctic. So
Arctic antics.
That question was from JJ. So the bear really represents polar bears. So that's really nice. It's sort of like a polar bear could be any polar bear. And
yeah, I think that's part of what I was so excited about how Mac wrote the book is he keeps surprising us by reminding us, oh, this is actually a bear. This is a bear. Like this bear is a bear. It's not a storybook bear. This is a real bear we're talking about.
Yes, it's a real bear.
Yeah.
We also have some questions. Will there be a first Cat in Space book? You've got your animation stop motions. Will a Cat in Space book?
I think. Look, I am not technically allowed to answer this question right now, which is actually, if you think about it, a pretty good answer, right?
Very good.
I can say, I think you're gonna like the answer to this question, but I'm not gonna tell you the answer.
There we go. Well, we could all enjoy the stop motion, right? So that's, go watch those. I did my little polar bear here. I actually, did the one on white. I added a few snowflakes, which actually would have been better if I.
Very nice. Yes.
I could cut those out, but I was reading a lot of questions, so I didn't have time to do my circles. But I think that could be nice as well, to cut little snowflakes. That's really fun, though. I really enjoyed how you do that technique of creating shadow. So you continue asking more questions. Oh, what's your favorite book? Eleanor is asking. You mean of Shawn's books? I think, or of all time?
Yeah, let me answer the latter, because I don't have an answer to what's my favorite book of mine. I like them all for different reasons, I guess. But my favorite book of all time. Oh, geez. Let me while you look at my this is my butterfly
in a meadow full of buttercups.
No, just in butter.
In butter, yeah, butterfly. Yeah. Yeah, you can be disguised in all kinds of places. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I've walked away from my desk. I'm gonna grab two of my favorite books.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, one of my favorite books. This might be my favorite picture book. This might be my favorite picture book. It's a pretty recent one. It's in the last 5 or 10 years, by Carson Ellis. This book is called Do As Talk. I love this book so much. This book is written entirely in bug language. And that might sound like, well, that sounds like a really hard book to read. And maybe on your first time reading it, you'll be like, well, I don't speak bug. I don't know what they're talking about. But then as you look at the illustrations in this book and read it over and over again, you actually learn bug language. I actually am pretty fluent in bug language after reading Do As Talk 100 times. It's a very good book. I recommend it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah.
And my other favorite book
Oh,
is really any Calvin and Hobbes book. I love Bill Watterson. I love Calvin and Hobbes. This was one of my favorite books when I was a kid, when I was in elementary school. I love Calvin and Hobbes. And as an adult, I still love Calvin and Hobbes. This is still one of my favorite books. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those are really good choices. Yeah, fantastic. So I would ask the audience what books they like, but that would probably take a while to get through. So, the books that
It would just be a lot of people saying A Polar Bear in the Snow, That's
my new favorite book. So I'm going to also just talk a little bit about the original art show. So some people were asking more about what that's about. So what they were asking about, I should say. So the original art show, I'm going to actually read a little bit about that because there's a bit more information than perhaps I'm just sort of saying it spontaneously. But it is an art show where the best of the picture books of the year are selected, and it's a great honor. It's for exceptional picture book illustrators. Shawn Harris has 2 books in our show, so you can check that out, as I mentioned earlier, by visiting online. There's a virtual exhibit tour. There's a little fee for that. If you want to go see it live in person, if you're local to New York City, the museum registration is open, and you have to register online to go visit that. December this year, and really there's a great diversity of artwork. So you'll see everything from collage, watercolor, oil paint, digital, pencil, watercolor. There's illustrators represented, and lots of themes, lots of really important and interesting themes, from animals to people in the world and how they feel about things. So I really recommend checking that out. Some of you may already be familiar with it, but it's our annual show. It's a very big show, a very popular show, and we've managed to bring it to the world virtually this year. Usually it's just a live show that people come and visit at the museum in Manhattan, but now it's virtually available. So it was founded in 1980 by illustrators agent and art director Dilys Evans. And, she was a big supporter of illustrators. And she came up with the idea of having a show, because actually, when you think about it, we all have picture books at home. When we were little, they were read to us. Maybe as adults, we collect them. I do. So they make, wonderful gifts. I think a book for a child is a wonderful gift. It inspires them, particularly with pictures, on how to do artwork as well. So she supported the illustrators as an agent, and she wanted to sort of show their work to the public. And became more and more popular, and the show grew and grew and grew, and now we have lots of people submitting their illustrations from books that have to be published the year that we have the exhibit. So the books have to come out that year, so it's the best of the picture books of 2020 that we're showing right now. And it's a great honor. There's a lot of books submitted, and there is a jury who look at all the artwork, and for various reasons they decide which books they want to honor. And quite often, we have repeat illustrators who do such fantastic books. They turn up in our shows frequently, and we're always thrilled to see what people submit and what they've been working on. And the books are also, listed so you can see where, what the title of the book is, where the illustration that they're they chose which illustration they wanted to have in the show, and it might not be the cover. It might be an interior page. But you'll have the book title and possibly the publisher. Other information might be the editor and the art director, because all of
Claire, did you know, I'm sorry to interrupt, did you know that my Instagram audience chose which piece I sent?
Oh, fantastic. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I couldn't decide, so I had to pull my friends and followers.
Yeah, that's hard because when you've worked on a book, as you said, you sort of have multiple favorites, or you can't make up your mind what would other people like to see, because it does help to have another point of view, particularly from your fans. We got some more questions coming in. Let me have a look over here.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Oh, did you get your polar bear idea from the Calvin and Hobbes comic?
Can you guys tell what this is going to be yet?
Oh, yes, I can. Anyone put in the chat? What's that character?
Did I get my idea for the polar bear from Calvin and Hobbes? Is there a Calvin and Hobbes polar bear? Oh, just basically like Hobbes, like Hobbes animate. I mean, like Calvin and Hobbes is such a good character. The Calvin's stuffed animal come to life. I mean, I imagine that like almost probably everything I do is in some way inspired by Calvin and Hobbes. So like, yes and no. I wasn't thinking about that book while I was making A Polar Bear in the Snow, but like I'm kind of always thinking about that book too. You know what I mean?
Well, it's inspired you. Yes, it's that when you've got books that kind of inspire you for stories or characters. So we've got a few people guessing that this is a pig. Sarah put in, it's a pig. Andrea also agreed it's a pig.
They got it.
An observation. Anuja, sorry, I think I pronounced your name wrong the first time. Anuja said, Calvin draws a small dark nose and eyes on a white sheet of paper. Oh,
yeah. So Calvin. So okay, yeah. I probably did. Okay, I gotta go find that comic because I have been trying to place. I had a memory of seeing that artist joke. Basically, a polar bear in the snow, like, is sort of an art joke. It's an old art joke, and I forgot that. Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes point that out too. It's like the ultimate thing to say, like, hey, would you like to see me do an amazing drawing? I'll draw a polar bear in the snow, and then you just do 3 little dots. Yes, exactly. That's so cool. Yeah, I didn't realize that was Calvin and Hobbes. Oh my goodness.
She nailed it, and she said that.
Nailed it.
It was a polar bear in the snow. Oh, very good. How old are you? Oh, Melanie wants to know Eleanor wants to know how old were you when you met Mac? How old were you?
How old was I when I met Mac? I was 7 years old. 7 years old. Me and Mac played on the same soccer team.
Wow.
I think we played on the same soccer team two years in a row. We were called the Castro Valley Thunderbolts was the name of our soccer team. We were both pretty bad at soccer, but turned out we were pretty good friends. So that's all that matters.
Yeah, and not just pretty good friends then, but lifelong friends. Friends forever.
That's right.
Great. So many memories, right? And of course, that's why you can fight. You're like brothers almost.
Exactly. So now, can anybody tell this my pig's habitat?
Oh yes, yeah.
Pig in the mud, everyone. A pig in the mud. A pig in the mud.
Oh, Saito Yamamoto wants to ask, I'm curious about your pen. Is that an ink brush?
Yes. Yeah? Yes, this is a brush. I like this. This is a brush that's preloaded with ink. I got it at my local art store. And if you go to a local art store, you'll see some of these. They've become pretty popular. This back unscrews and you can replace the back. It comes preloaded with ink, which means that you don't have to keep dipping your brush, but it does have a brush tip, which is quite nice. It's quite easy for me to, not have to dip here. I also like to use like a brush and ink like this, but this is so simple that I oftentimes go to this as well. See if I want to do some quick drawing. Yeah.
Panelists, our younger participants, those brush pens are really quite handy because with India ink, if that gets spilled, it's a bit permanent. So you have to actually somewhere, right? If you're going to have any little ink splots, you don't want to get it on anything that you can't get it out of, right? So the brushes are good.
There's really fun stuff that happens when, if you get I always get when I get new tools, I like to experiment with them, and every art tool can kind of do a different thing. Like right here, you can see like my line goes from pretty thick to pretty thin right there. That's exciting. That's fun. But, you
Yes,
know, like what you don't need fancy art tools to make good art. You just have to be creative to figure out that if you don't have like new tools to figure out what the things lying around your house can do. That's part of the cool thing about collage. We don't have to be using like freshly like pigmented paper here. We could be using scrap paper that's sitting next to the telephone and be making art that's just as good or even better than this.
yes.
Try cutting out newspapers or magazines. All of that stuff is fair game. Yeah.
Cereal boxes. You cut open a cereal box
Yep.
and you look at the inside. It's solid. That could be mud.
Exactly.
On that.
Exactly.
So we're actually getting close to wrapping up here, Shawn, and I just have to say this has been so fun, and it's such a delight to have you all the way from Northern California, where you got up early to share your artwork with us and your skills, and it's fantastic. We really do appreciate this, and we are obviously doing more online right now, so we do have another Saturday Stories associated with the original art show, which is again generously gifted to make it free for our participants. And that one is going to be on December 12th with Matthew Cordell. And then moving into the year 2021, we'll always be continuing with Saturday Stories, seeing if we can bring them live to you at the museum at some point. But this was a real honor to have you here, Shawn. And the fact that, you probably wouldn't have been able to join us unless you were in New York. The fact that you could do it from your studio at home in California.
And we got to have all of our friends here join us from around the world too. Thank you, everybody. Can everybody give a round of applause to the Society of Illustrators right now for hosting this? Thank you so much, Claire and the Society.
It is an absolute delight, and everyone says thank you. I know I'm speaking on behalf of all those participants that they had a great time. We do a lot online. If you want to check out, as I said, SI Kids, Shawn will be featured as a Meet the Illustrator. There'll be more about him. You can go to his website. You can look at his videos. You could join Max Drawing Club, Drawing Time Club. There's so much
book club show. With Drawing Time with the racquetball king of the Oakland YMCA, Shawn Harris. Okay, Claire, go ahead. You can say it again. No, I'm just
Rex link is in the chat, but you can look up more. This video will be on our website coming soon, so you can revisit it and show friends who didn't get a chance to actually join us live here. I also teach
and if you have a link of your drawings of your camouflage collage that you're doing right now, the Society of Illustrators would love to see this next school of illustrators coming up around the world. Maybe you will be featured in the Society of Illustrators Original Art Show in the future. Please send those in so that you are on the radar of this prestigious institution.
Absolutely, yeah. It all begins with you just practicing drawing and finding a passion in it. Whatever materials, whatever subjects, we want to see what you created. You can actually email that to me, Claire, CLARE, @societyillustrators.org, and that's also in the chat. And look online.
And Claire will share those with me. I really would like to see those too. Yeah.
I'll be sharing them with you. So, that's going to be a treat for Shawn to see what you guys did. Maybe surprise him with another one. Figure out another camouflage color, and, we'll see what you come up with. And after school is also a workshop that I teach, and that's twice a week for 5 to 7-year-olds and 8 to 11-year-olds. You can find that on our website, Creating Characters. And I know kids love to create characters. Shawn loves to create characters, so we saw how he created the polar bear. And with that, I'd like to wish you a good rest of your Saturday and weekend. And again, thank you for joining us, Shawn. It was a real pleasure. Goodbye, everybody, and a round of applause. Yay!
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Bye.